back over. Oh, sounds good. And live.
Yo, what up, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another Game of the Week preview. We already know what happened yesterday, but we got to go back over it again and preview the Game 5, all right? We got to preview Game 5 between the Knicks and the Pistons. This series has been nothing short of box office. Every single game coming down to the wire, and who better to help break this game down and preview the next matchup than my guy Bryce Simon. You can catch him over at Motor City Hoops. All right, make sure to follow his Substack as well. This man just did 7 pages worth of notes on the most recent game. So yes, there is stuff to talk about this game outside of the Tim Hardaway Jr. foul, but don't worry, we are going to talk about that today. We got Bryce here. We're going to make him talk about it. So make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. Let's go. Let's get this, man. Let's get it. Shout out to all the franchise channel members again. We got Zach in LA. We got J. Cole. We got Santana. J. Cole and Santana. We got rappers in here, man. We got rappers in here. We all know what it is. All right, man. Appreciate all you for coming through. Bryce, my man, how you feeling, man? Welcome back.
What's up, Alex, man? Happy to be back. Happy to talk some more Pistons-Knicks playoff series. That's right. 7 pages of notes on the Substack. 1 single line on the Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Hart into the game situation. Everything else was what was a incredibly fun and entertaining basketball game with big shot making, going both ways, good basketball, fun basketball. It's been an entertaining series. I know the graphics going around that the Cavs won their series in what a plus 122 or something like that. Obviously, Game 4 was a blowout. This Pistons-Knicks series has been close, man. It's been one of the. There's been some good playoff basketball, but this is one of the better series for sure.
For sure. It lives up to the billing. I mean, you're talking about a team like the New York Knicks that came in here being a little bit on the more finesse side. Sure, you got some guys who are gritty players, Brunson, Hart, OG guys who will play physical. Cat showing his physicality in this series, really letting that shine through. And then Detroit, that's what they came in here. That was the billing, right? The bad boy Pistons 2.0, and they are wanting a physical game. Although we're gonna dissect this game, Bryce. We're gonna dissect this game. All right, we're gonna get to all that. But first, I gotta ask you, man. We gotta go through the good, bad, the ugly. Let's talk about the game itself. What did you like from a Knicks perspective or Pistons perspective, like from this game whatsoever? And what did you dislike? What did you dislike as well?
I'll tell you, you brought up the Knicks first. I like that the Knicks stayed with the Karl Anthony Towns stuff. I mean, I'm going to my big takeaway here, and I don't think this series is over. Obviously, the Knicks have a major advantage. Game 5, Madison Square Garden. Detroit would have to pull off 3 in a row. I don't think this team ever backs down or quits in terms of the Pistons. But I've said to GMAC the other day, if the Knicks truly make a run in this playoffs, I'm not talking about winning this series. I'm talking about going and giving the Celtics a series and potentially knocking off the champs and all of that. They're going to point back to Game 2 and the disaster that was for Karl Anthony Towns and the lack of forcefulness of him on the offensive end, and then the subsequent reaction to that, which was what we saw in Game 3, which was, I'm going to start shooting threes because I'm one of the best shooting big men in the NBA. And we're going to start running design post-up actions, and I'm going to go get buckets. And then I'm just going to hit huge, tough buckets in these games. And so I love that it wasn't a one-game thing from Karl Anthony Towns, Alex. They came right out of the gate, and they went to him again in Game 4, and he showed out yet again.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was my first, that was the thing I first noticed, was that, okay, we're going back to the same game plan that worked in Game 3. Get Karl Anthony Towns activated early so that way he's engaged throughout the rest of the game. As we already saw in Game 2, it was spurts, moments here and there where Brunson would either find Cat. We know about Cat not put up one single shot in the fourth quarter. We know he got phased out with 5 minutes to go, essentially in the third. And it wasn't a crazy course correction in Game 3, but it was a well-balanced attack to make sure that everyone got involved. Karl Anthony being that number one guy that you want to get involved early, and Brunson was looking for him. And it's great to see Cat in these matchups just continue to shoot from downtown. I mean, he went 5 of 7 in this game, and that's what you want to see from Karl Anthony Towns, because we've already talked about it, man. The Pistons struggle with guarding the 3. So do the Knicks. But Like when you're playing a team, you got to expose their weaknesses. And the fact that we only saw Cat make 1 3 in the first two, not the way you want to go for a Knicks team. That's the whole point why you traded for him. And if you're not going to utilize his strength, then why did we make that trade to begin with? And so to see him work on that and go to that in this game, obviously we could talk about the two big threes that he shot in the fourth quarter. I mean, huge. We're talking about the right wing, and then you're talking about the step back that he had right on Duran. And it's like, yo, this is why, man, because it's like a free throw shot for him. So happy to see that. But then he was also working inside the paint too, and he was being
Yes.
physical with Tobias Harris. We've had that whole discussion where we're going to put wings on Cat and try to, disrupt the Brunson Cat pick and roll. And to look, it has disrupted the Cat and Brunson pick and roll in this series, no doubt about it. So you got to just figure out another way. How do you get this guy going? And I like to see that this team has just said, you know what? Just get him the rock, man. He'll figure it out, whether it's getting him down low on the block or just finding him on the perimeter. I like what the Knicks have been doing.
I think the shot diet's been really good the last two games because, yes, whenever Tobias Harris is the matchup, running design post actions is good. And Detroit has shown that they'll go double in those situations. And they've been able to create some good looks out of it. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions coming into the series and after the first couple games was that just because Tobias Harris was the primary matchup on Karl Anthony Towns, that he shouldn't be taking threes or that he couldn't find them in transition or whatever. I just think even against Harris, that's still a way. Like it's such a weapon in the NBA, the trail 3-point attempt, because your whole life you're taught to get back, protect the paint first, and then spread out from there. And then you have this 7-foot trail big man that can step into it and shoot it from. I mean, it's why Kristaps Porzingis is valuable, Miles Turner is valuable, like Brook Lopez, like all of that archetype. Chet Holmgren is that archetype of big is one of my favorites. Obviously, some of those guys a little bit better on the defensive end, although I feel like Cat has been. I feel like Cat has been fine defensively.
Yes.
Is that fair? Would you agree with? I think he's had some really good rim protection throughout the entire 4-game series.
For sure. I think, like, look, he's not an elite defender, right? But I think for this matchup with, if you look at the inexperience on the Pistons, outside of Asar Thompson, not a lot of guys are truly high flyers. Like
Sure.
Duran, yes, hyper athletic for a big man, but even still, like Tobias Harris, not a high flying guy. Cade is not necessarily the most athletic guy who's going to be flying up and down the court, right? He's like Brunson in a way where he'll use his strength. And for Cade, he has that height advantage so he can get to his spots and shoot over guys. But for the most part, when I look at that starting five and the guys who they've been running out there primarily, even with Dennis Schroeder, who is speedy, like I think this matchup just works for Karl Anthony Towns for his positioning. It's not like he has to go guard Kristaps Porzingis and go
Yeah.
fly around following
Sure.
him.
Yeah.
So this type of matchup plays to Cat's strengths because even still, like he doesn't have to go battle like laterally to keep up with somebody, right? He can actually use his wingspan to compete defensively.
Well, and he's not like getting brute. Like it's not like it's Zubac who's just gonna like bang on him or somebody
Right.
like that either. Duran's raw numbers in this series are okay. He's averaging what is it, 10 and yeah, I mean he's averaging a double double, but it doesn't seem like it's been crazy. I think the only thing that's given Cat real trouble is when he's a little bit late to the ball screen and Cade is really good snaking back across. Like if Cade can get the and then Cat's just in trouble after that. But yeah, I thought he's held up fine. Obviously, OG's been awesome on the defensive end. I will say one of my biggest takeaways was Detroit came out real sluggish in this game. I didn't think they
Yes.
started the game very well. The turnovers really showed up. Now, this team always responds, and they did that the second quarter, the third quarter. Obviously, they had the lead going into the fourth, the Brunson injury scare, and then he comes back in and just does what Jalen Brunson does. He's clutch player of the year for a reason. But I do, I brought this up with you that I was a little bit nervous how the Pistons would come out early in games at home with the crazy energy. And in game one, game three, the first game back at LCA was a slow start. And then the entire first quarter, or most of it anyway, was pretty sluggish for Detroit in game four.
Yeah, but you know what? Even with the slow start that Detroit had, something that the Knicks have always struggled with is, how they start the third quarter. And it was just another, especially ending that second quarter, in a rut. Detroit starts to get some confidence, cuts that thing down to 7, I believe. Then they get the fuel. You add more fuel to the fire. They're amped. They're hyped. Now Tobias is hitting shots. Timmy's getting in the groove, right? Cade is obviously doing the damn thing. And so now you gave these guys life. And as we saw, Brunson obviously goes down in that third quarter. He misses a little bit of time. Thankfully, he's able to come back in the fourth and take this game home by putting up 50 points with 0 free throws, by the way, in the fourth quarter. I know people like to talk about, foul merchant and all this type of stuff. But look, when you watch like this, if you want to talk about a perfect ugly game, this was the perfect ugly game, right? Pistons came out slow. Knicks started hot. Things started to flip in the second quarter. Now the Knicks are starting to go slow. Their defense is not necessarily holding up intact. Offensively, they looked just discombobulated. Pistons started to get like Pistons. It was like it was a good blend of like really good offense, like Cade just setting everybody up to get good open looks, but also some tough shot making from the Pistons as well to just fight back in this thing. And then obviously you get the back and forth between the third and the fourth quarter. And look, you talked about it. End of the game was like top tier shot making. This is like everything that you wanted in a grueling matchup. And I would say for the Pistons, like the one thing that continues to hold true is just their defense. They're a top 10 defense when they ended the season for a reason. And to your point, Bryce, is that they continue to fight even when things are not going their way. And that's why they've been able to stay in these games. And that's why if you're look, as someone who just enjoys the NBA, you got to look at this team saying, hey, they got something to build off of after the season, regardless of how it goes. They got something to build off of because these guys just don't stop for nothing. And they somehow find a way to get back into these games because they will just continue to wear the opposing team down defensively and get them into making mistakes, right? Obviously, the one thing they have to work on is their turnovers because my God, they were they were a bakery in that first quarter, man. They were absolutely a bakery.
Yeah, it's been an issue throughout a large portion of the season. Like it comes and goes a little bit. The idea was that Schroeder would help with some of that. It's obviously probably the biggest flaw in Cade's game right now. The 3-point shot I thought showed growth this season. It hasn't been great in the playoffs. I believe he's at like 25%. Yeah, right now. But I talk about data collection all season long. All season long. This was my thing. Anybody who listens to the Pistons Pulse or, whenever we talked about the Pistons on Game Theory, it was data collection. The most important piece of data collection was, would Cade Cunningham still be this level of dude in a playoff series? He's going to be all NBA whenever that comes out. Would he be an all NBA caliber player in a playoff series against a really good and experienced New York Knicks team? And this dude right now through 4 games is averaging 26, 9, and 9. On top of that, he's also averaging 3 stocks per game. And it showed up in that game. I think he had 4 blocks in game 4. So he's providing some value on the defensive end as well. At the end of the day, like that's what you have to have first and foremost. If you're the Detroit Pistons, you need your number 1 pick to be a face of the franchise, guy. And that's what Cade has shown to be. And that's the most important thing. And then you start looking at, okay, what is Asar Thompson? What is Jalen Duren? What is Ron Holland? Unfortunately, we're not getting to see Jaden Ivey. Real quickly on the defense also, Alex, they're doing it without maybe their best defender. Like some people would argue, like if you want to say it's Asar, that's fine. Isaiah Stewart is unquestionably one of the 2 best defenders on this team. And maybe the one guy that makes the most sense to match up with Karl Anthony Towns. And he's missed 3 games in this series, which I think makes the defensive performance even that much more impressive, even though they are down 1-3.
Yeah, I was looking forward to see how Isaiah Stewart would perform in a postseason. I mean, this was going to be his first postseason. Very fascinated with how, especially previewing with Koo, who covers the Pistons for Locked On Pistons. And,
that was a great work.
he took, yeah, shout out to Koo, man. Does excellent work. And look, he brought up the fact of how important Isaiah Stewart is for this team. And to your point, they're doing a damn good job without him. So only would just make things a little bit more interesting to see instead of using Paul Reed, if you had 2 legitimate centers and just thinking of what the Knicks did, just to make that parallel the last 2 seasons when you have Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, right? When you have 2 legitimate bigs out there that can compete, that's 48 minutes of rim protection. Makes a huge difference. So while they don't have him, and look, I'm curious to see if because I know a lot of Pistons fans, especially when I go on social, it's like he would have been the cat stopper. I'm like, all right, man, like let's not go that far. But I do think there would have been a little bit of a difference. But I would like to see that. I mean, have you heard anything? Because I see that he's got the questionable tag for tomorrow.
That's what I haven't heard anything. I saw the questionable tag again. Like I hope we get a chance to see him. Like I'm not overly worried about whether the Pistons win the series or not. Like going back to before the series, like to me, it's just like I like analyzing the team, and this was a lot of fun to analyze. And again, the data collection. And I've been a guy that was like, I think Isaiah Stewart's going to be a very valuable playoff piece. I think the way he defends, some switchability, his physicality, his rim protection. But the other thing is, I wanted to see how Isaiah Stewart's offense would play in a playoff series because he's, you talk about not having high risers. Isaiah Stewart is definitely not that. So would he be able to finish? Would he be able to make short roll reads? Would all of those things on the offensive end that we're seeing kind of be a struggle for some Pistons players right now? I wish we would have got a chance to see more of that from Stu throughout this series to see just how valuable he really could be in a playoff setting.
For sure. And I think like obviously the biggest takeaway for this game, just switch into like what the Knicks had, Jalen Brunson, man. I mean,
Yeah,
he
he's
just
incredible.
just incredible, man. Fantastic. I mean, goes down with an ankle injury, or a leg pinch, as was told to KFTV. Shout out to CP for being able to report that, and returns right in the fourth quarter and gets to work. And I think the biggest takeaway is just for him, just we know that he's cool, calm, and collected, but it's another thing where, especially with, and I say it like mockingly, when everyone says like, oh, he goes hunting for fouls. He didn't do any of that, and yet he was still able to get 15 points in the fourth quarter. Still able to get his and in a multitude of fashions. So when I just continue to watch him, it's just like I just lose the words to describe how Jalen Brunson is at this point. And the fact that he went 7-11 from the field in that fourth quarter and only took one 3-pointer, which he made, got you 15 points, got 2 assists. Like the fact that you have, like, you're throwing multiple defenders at him. I know Thompson only played about 3 minutes. I think Dennis Schroeder, who played damn near the entire quarter, like he's been doing a really good job defensively, just being a pest.
Yeah.
And when you just continue to get the multiple buys, even with Malik Beasley guarding Brunson, it's just the ability for Brunson to continue to figure it out and just like that's quick recognition. That's like computer processing at that point. That's probably the biggest takeaway for me. He's seeing multiple defenders and he's like, oh, I know how to take this guy out to the rack. Oh, I know how to get a step back on this guy and create some separation. I know what to do for each player. And that just tells you the level of detail it goes into the prep work, whether that's watching tape on, your opponent and just the practice that he puts in just to be able to change gears and use his physicality to get to the cup.
I mean, think about the difference in the two guys you brought up. Asar Thompson is a top 1% athlete in the NBA with length and size and all of that, and very, very aggressive. And then Dennis Schroeder is just like this small little, I mean, he's not small, but NBA standards, a little bit smaller of a guard. But the way Brunson has to attack those guys is vastly different because he can't just shoot over Asar, right? He has to be a little bit more crafty in the way he attacks him. Where with Schroeder, he knows that once he gets to his spot, then he is bigger than Schroeder and can shoot over him or use his body to knock him off or whatever he needs to do. I mean, he's averaging 33 a game on 46, 36, 83. But the other impressive stat is almost 9 assists per game. And we talked about turnovers with Cade. Brunson's at 2.5. Just an incredible series overall for him in terms of his offensive performance. And, I always value the offensive hub, the offensive engine in terms of who I give the most credit to. Because I think whenever you're leading the charge for your team on the offensive end, that's a lot of weight to carry. And as you know, as all Knicks fans know, Brunson has done that now. And he's doing it again in this series. It's a lot of fun to watch. Him and Karl-Anthony Towns have been, I mean, Towns' shooting splits are 53, 50, 1,000. He hasn't missed a free throw in the series. Now, he hasn't taken a ton, but like, are you kidding me, man? It's just, it's honestly from a Pistons perspective, when I read those numbers, it makes me appreciate how much the Pistons have been in these games and how competitive they've been even more. Because outside of game 2, Karl-Anthony Towns, you are getting some really high level play from, at the very least, the Knicks' 2 best players. I feel like OG's been really good defensively. His offense has been a little bit of a roller coaster. Bridges has made shots. I love Josh Hart and the impact plays he consistently makes. The only thing the Knicks haven't been great at, and I don't know how big of a concern this is for you if they move on, I feel like the bench has given them nothing. Like Deuce doesn't keep in a flow. Mitch Robb kind of got played off after one hack a Mitch possession. Other than the campaign fourth quarter in game one, I think I saw a stat that Schroeder is outscoring the Knicks bench by himself. Is that a little concerning to you and Knicks fans?
Oh, for sure, Bryce. And
Okay.
you know, I was going to do a reset, but now you had to bring up the negative, and so
I'm
no, it's all
sorry.
good. It's
I'm
all good.
sorry.
Look,
I'm
man, this is
sorry.
what we do, man. This is what we do around here, all right? But you had to bring it up, and I was hoping I didn't have to discuss this again. But yeah, look, the bench has been woeful. I mean, the guy that you're expecting to get a lot from too is Deuce McBride, but he's been
Yeah.
in and out of the lineup this entire season, man, missing parts of the season with various injuries this year, and so it doesn't shock me that he's struggling to find some rhythm again after getting injured around the same time as Brunson, um, before like the playoffs started. So he's trying to find his rhythm, having a little difficulty, not getting him to give any offensive production, like substantial offensive production.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hit shots here and there. We get that. But like we're talking about a guy who could give you like 10, 15 off the bench, who can even like we saw last season put up 20 and just completely, tilt the scales in your favor. Like we saw him do that against Philly last year. And the fact that he's not giving any of that to us now, that's why you're seeing the Knicks play, the starters playing like north of like 36 minutes, playing 38, 40 minutes. And it's been a struggle. Now, he did get a lot of playing time yesterday due to the fact that Brunson did get injured. I wonder how much playing time he would have got if Brunson didn't get injured, and if like, how do you figure out just to get him going? But the bench needs to get going, man. Like, if we don't have any bench production, it's just gonna like for the next round. I don't even want to think about that yet. We're still like can't overlook any opponent in the postseason. But if it were to go to the next round for the Knicks, high concern, man. Like you can't just go in there with five and a half players against the Boston Celtics. That's craziness, man. We can't be doing that. But look, for this matchup, it is a concern too because it gets taxing, man. Like even with the rest in between, like this has been a physical series. Like it's taxing. It's taxing in a different way than like playing the Indiana Pacers, right? You have to be ready for a track meet. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
ready to keep up and down. The pace is like a different level. You got to be ready to run, And for the Knicks, that'd be a whole other conversation for a team that loves to play the half court game. If you're gonna play the half court game with the Pistons, you got to be ready to, throw bodies. And so that's a whole, like, it's like lifting weights, man. It's just a whole other strength. And look, you played D1 basketball. You know that if you're playing against a physical team, that's a whole other like level of just intensity,
Yep.
grueling physicality that, you have to be prepared for. And that is very taxing. And so you hope you get more from the bench. Hopefully they show up in tomorrow's matchup because it would give this team even more life probably in the third and fourth quarter, and that's probably what they were. They were dead in the third, man. So yeah, I would like to
Well,
see more production from the bench.
and that physicality can wear on you mentally too, right? Emotionally. And it's just like eventually, like, just get away from me. Like, you just want a little space. But I think to that point, it is important for the Knicks to close this out in game five because I do think Detroit will come in and respond and at least put up a great effort. Now, whether they win or not, I have no idea, right? I mean, again, the Knicks team is more talented. We knew that going into the series, and you can still see that. They have five of the six best players in the series. I would guess. I guess there could be some argument at the end of that, but Cade's the only one that's in that realm. And then maybe when you get to the bottom, again, you can debate it. But New York being able to close this out and not have to go back to Detroit and play another physical game is like that how many extra minutes is that? Miles, all of that, as opposed to them resting their bodies and getting prepared for the next round. I just think this is a huge game for the Knicks in terms of a big picture playoff run, whatever, is to close this thing out now and not let Detroit go into Madison Square Garden, steal one, and then you have to go play another one on the road again because of the physicality and the number of minutes all of these guys are having to put in.
Salute to Nick Station. Thank you all for tuning in for another game of the week preview. With me on the other side is my guy Bryce Simon. He covers the Detroit Pistons for Motor City Hoops. Make sure to go follow his Substack as well. And hey, people, guess what? Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick, and also to win 2 free tickets to Game 5. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Underdog Fantasy and why I love it. Okay. I like to think I know a little bit more than what underdog is telling me out there. So when like to see like what the points are, man, and what the, what the line is, I like to say, hey, I think I know what's going to happen tonight. And so, look, when you're playing underdog, you get to choose, if you're making a ticket, you get to choose anywhere between 2 to 8 players. And all you got to do is just choose higher or lower on any stat that's given to you. So if it's the NBA, and let's say you got Josh Hart for more than 7.5 rebounds. And it's like, hey, Josh can easily go get double digits. You would choose higher. And that's all you got to do when you choose the rest of your selections. Now, the cool thing is you can mix and match across all sports. So it doesn't just have to be basketball. It could be basketball. It could be football. It could be baseball. It could be hockey. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You can mix and match and choose anything that you want for your ticket. Okay. And the cool thing is that you can either go all in or go the insured route. If you don't believe that all your picks are going to hit, you can go the insured route. So let's say you chose 4. If you think 3 are going to hit, you'll still get a little bit of cash. Won't be as much if you got all 4 right, but you still get a little bit of cash. Now, the other thing about Underdog Fantasy that they offer is the fantasy draft. So you can put on your GM cap, compete with your friends or some randos and see who could put together the best team and win some money that way as well. So make sure to go support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And for all new users, if you sign up and you make a deposit, you get the chance to potentially win 2 free tickets. That's right, 2 free tickets to Game 5 at Madison Square Garden to watch the New York Knicks face the Detroit Pistons. So make sure to go sign up, use that promo code KFTV to go get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick, and the potential for all new users to get 2 free tickets to watch the Knicks face off against the Detroit Pistons at Madison Square Garden. All right. And don't forget, we also got the watch party at the Ainsworth. We got DJ Eric L. Beats back on the 1s and 2s. Starts at 5:30 sharp tomorrow. So make sure to go there when the doors open. Go get your drink swag on. All right. And go support the New York Knicks and go support the Orange and Blue Nation. I just mean the New York Knicks. Shout out to TM for correcting me on this because I am a Yankee fan. I don't support that team. All right. I am a Yankee fan. I only support one Orange and Blue team. All right. And that is the New York Knicks. All right. So make sure you go support them tomorrow. All right, Bryce, let's get back into this. Look, man, I told you we're going to talk about something that you did not want to talk about, man. So we got to talk about it. All right. The people want to know. The people want to know, especially since you follow the Pistons. So they got to get the Pistons take on this.
All right.
What happened with Tim Hardaway Jr., man? Do you care if it was a foul? Do you care if they said, hey, at the end that it's a foul? Like, how do you break that down for them?
I think it was a foul. I will be honest, live, I didn't. That wasn't my first instinct watching it was not, oh, that was a foul. I know a lot of people said, like, even live, they thought it was a foul. I had to watch a lot of the replays, including the one from the baseline that gets the best view of Josh, like, getting into him and over the top of him and all of that, before I was like, I think it's a foul. Pistons fans are mad at me because I'm not more upset about this. Like, it just kind of is what it is. Like, bad calls go. It is a bad call in my opinion. I think it should have been called. Yes, it changes the series because it would be 2-2 going back to Madison Square Garden. Like, I understand all of the ramifications of it, Alex. I truly do. I understand it all. But like I said, I wrote one note on it of my 7 pages of notes on my Substack. And it's just, my thing is, the game just gets lost whenever we focus so much on this. And my best example of that is the game after this was the Lakers-Wolves on Sunday, Alex. And all they did at halftime talking about the Pistons-Knicks game was they showed that play and then the official after the game saying he got it wrong. They didn't show Karl-Anthony Towns' ridiculous baseline fadeaway jumper. They didn't show Karl-Anthony Towns' ridiculous step back 3. They didn't show Cade Cunningham going for a 25-point triple-double in his 4th playoff game of his career. And that's what I dislike about just talking about. I know we need to talk about it, but that's why I try not to focus on it too much. I do think it was a foul. I'm not, like, up in arms about it a whole lot, though.
Yeah, and look, this is my thing. I tweeted this out earlier today, Bryce, and I want to know what you think about what I have to say on this. It's that, and I agree with you. Everyone is talking about the last call of the Knicks Piston game, but to me, no one's talking about how the Pistons, gave up an 11-point lead in the 4th quarter. Like,
okay, can I say something real fast?
Yeah,
Like you won't find a bigger Cade Cunningham fan than me, right? Would you
yeah,
agree? Like I give Cade
for
Cunningham
sure.
all of his flowers. You know what Cade Cunningham did on the last three possessions of the game? Missed mid-range jumper, turnover, missed mid-range jumper. And so like I love Cade Cunningham. I think he's a star. I think he's going to be all NBA multiple years. I think he's going to lead this team to real playoff contention. But like I would rather talk about that. Like one, the fact he got those isolation mid-range jumper looks against OG is impressive. How about Josh Hart forcing the turnover on the in-between possession? Like it's all of those nuanced things that nobody's talking about right now because we only focus on the last 1 second of the game. So sorry to interrupt.
And this is why the people love you when you come over to KFTV, man, for the game of the week preview, man. And look, and that's why I had to answer the call. They wanted you back, Bryce. They wanted you back. They
Well, I
they really
appreciate it.
appreciate they really appreciate your insight on the last game of the week preview. And so just to finish off what I tweeted out, I said, so everyone is talking about the last call, the Knicks Pistons game, but no one is holding the Pistons accountable for blowing an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter and allowing the Knicks to be in that moment. Never leave the game in the hands of the refs, man. Like you just never, you can't. That you like, and this is somebody who I don't like to complain about the refs. Like, yes, I can acknowledge when there's bad officiating, but I can't just say that, oh, like the Knicks lost because of the refs, or like some team lost because of the refs. Like at some point, there's always going to be some sort of adversity, even like in life, right? There's always going to be a level of adversity. How do you compensate? How do you figure out how to get through that, right?
Yep.
And look, we could be like if the Pistons won, it's we Knicks fans would be like, oh well, maybe if Dennis Schroeder didn't hurt him on the leg and all this other, like it
Yeah.
could go that way too, right? Like there's just so many different angles on this. And my thing would be like, well, if Brunson goes down, the whole point that we got Bridges and we got Josh here is so that we don't have to rely on him. And that's, what we should have expected if we didn't go through the last month without Brunson. Like that was the whole point, is that maybe these guys could grow without Brunson. They could figure out how to close when he's not there on the floor. And that would be my reaction to it, right? Not
Yeah.
that, oh, Schroeder hurt somebody. And I just feel like when we're talking about this game, we can look at the last 2 minute report and go down through all this. But what about the other fouls, man? That's the other thing I hate about the 2 minute report. It's like you talk about the last 2 minutes. What about the other things that could have been missed? All right. And for me, and I don't know if you saw this, but like I saw Cade legitimately grab Josh Hart's wrist and then throw him down on a drive, and I'm like, all right, man, like that's not basketball right there. But it's like, is anyone going to talk about that? Do I see anyone? It's like there's so many things, and that's why when it gets down to, oh, the last possession of foul call, I know it's the drama and everything. It adds up to everything. Even when they talk about the 4-point play for the Knicks, man, with LJ, it's like, oh, well, was that a foul? And that's like a whole thing. Like, was he fouled? Should he got to the free throw line? And it's like, yes, everyone loves to talk about that. It's great for headlines. It's great to like gossip over that and just focus in on one moment because, look, breaking down the entire game is not everyone's cup of tea, man. But that's what we're here
Yeah.
to do, man. Break it down. And so I think, like, at the end of the day, does it suck? If I was on the other side of that call, I'd be upset too. But at the end of the day, I'd also say my first thing is, what didn't the Knicks do to put themselves in position to win? And if you have an 11-point lead, you got to close it out. End
Yeah.
story. That's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Listen, I just don't think there's anything to holding on to these. So I used to coach high school basketball, and I mean, I hold on to one call. Like one of my, actually, it was my last ever game I coached as a head coach, sub-state championship, chance to go to the state tournament. And I thought we got screwed on a call in a situation where we could have got the ball and a chance to go win the game. And like I can vividly remember it and all of that, but like, what does it matter? But then I have to remind myself, like, the things I didn't do to properly prep my team and the shots we missed and the slow start, like we got off to a slow start and all of those things. So I think it's a piece of the puzzle. I don't mean to make it sound like you should ignore it. Like every play is important, and that
For
one is
sure.
definitely important. So it should be discussed. It's just not the first thing that comes to mind whenever I think about this game. I have so many other things I would rather talk about. How about the Tom Thibodeau action after timeout where he gets Schroeder switched on to Anunoby, which forces help from the weak side. And that's how Cat got the weak side wing 3-point make that you were talking about earlier that kind of got this thing going. And so there's just all of these little nuances. I love the way the Knicks have guarded the Pistons designed actions in this series. OG has been the best in my opinion. Like I don't know this for a fact, but I feel like OG really locks in on scouting reports because I've watched him disrupt more Pistons set actions than anybody all year. And it makes sense. It's the playoffs. But now what Detroit did in game 3 was they started to counter that. I watched Cade use OG's aggressiveness to take that away, to then attack him in a different way. So I'm like, okay, what are they going to do in game 5? So I just think there's so many other storylines. Is it important? Yes. Do I think it was a foul? Yes. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time being upset about it or talking about it or whatever, because there's so much other fun stuff to discuss.
Absolutely. And I just got to say this for all the people out there, especially I saw some Houston Rockets content creators saying, oh, Brunson gets to, first of all, to any Houston Rockets content creator out there, right? I remember a specific game where Aaron Holiday got a foul call on Jalen Brunson for the final shot. Similar situation where instead of a no call, they make the call. Aaron Holiday knocks down all the free throws, wins the game. And I'm like, well, they came back and said, oh, that wasn't a foul on Brunson. It's like, well, that changed the game. And I could live, be angry about that. And sure, in the moment I was angry about it, but at the end of the day, it's like, yo, the Knicks they allowed themselves to be in that position, to be at the hands of the refs. You know what I mean? And even for let's even go back to this game, right? For JB Bickerstaff. Maybe if he doesn't use that challenge in the first quarter, he can go back to that. Maybe he gets a chance with Timmy, right? And say, hey, let's try to change things up. And to your point, there's so many things to go to the piece of the puzzle where it's like, we can't just look at one play in a vacuum. The totality of the entire game and how it unfolded gets you to the equation that you're at in that final frame.
And I will say, and this isn't directed at Pistons fans at all, because they're incredible and I love their passion. And that's what I told, like, somebody got mad at me because I was like, I'm not going to talk about it on my podcast for very much. But I was like, the only team I'm fanatic about is the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, and I was like, I'd be pissed if that happens to the Chiefs, and I hear all NFL fans screaming that never happens to the Chiefs because they only get the call. So I understand. But I feel like most fans, and I'm not trying to be the gatekeeper of these conversations, is like swallow the whistle at end of games, right? Isn't that usually what people want? They don't want to see it decided at the free throw line. They want the refs to allow the players to make the play. Now, you could argue that Josh Hart fouled him and didn't allow him. And I feel like we're always wanting it this way, and then we want it back that way, and then we want reviews, but we don't want it reviewed that way, but then it takes too long. And it's just like, sometimes I just want to watch the game and enjoy it and break down the X's and O's. And that's just my way of consuming it. And when I first got into this, I said I would never talk about things I didn't genuinely want to talk about. And so, like, listen, I understand we have to talk about it, but I just, like, that's just my thing. I don't care about the officiating. I want to break down the X's and O's. And if people don't want to listen to me because of that, God bless you. There's some content creators out there that I'm sure are more up your alley, and I respect it.
Hey, man, it is what it is. And the last thing I'll say, and then we can move on to the next topic, which is, previewing the upcoming game. And shout out to Barbara Carroll, who, you're always in here, Barbara. And I see that, yes, the Houston game I was talking about was not a playoff game. I understand that. But here's the other thing. We could talk about, like, everyone likes to say overlook regular season games and say they don't matter. That regular season game, we could have maybe gotten that win, gotten to 50 wins sooner. And the next thing you know, maybe the Knicks, if you want to look at the season as a macro, right? Say, hey, maybe they don't have to go balls to the wall in the last game of the regular season against the Chicago Bulls, which I'm pretty sure went into overtime right before the playoffs started. And it's like, hey, maybe they got their 50th win. They could have sealed up something and been done with it. And so, look, as we talk about, it's like the pieces of the puzzles unfold for a playoff game and a series. Same thing for a regular season game. It unfolds. It's a part of the piece of the puzzle. Maybe if you get to 50 wins sooner, you could take the breaks that you want and rest the team for the postseason. That's all. And look, as to what Bryce said, it's much larger than just one instance. But that's just the point I'm trying to make here. But we don't got to keep talking about this, man. Salute to Knicks Nation. Appreciate you all for tuning for another Game of the Week preview. With me on the other side is my guy, Bryce Simon. Make sure to go give him a follow, all right? Make sure to go check out Motor City Hoops. All right, make sure to go check out his wonderful platform. He does great work. My man just said he did 7 pages of notes on this game. That tells you how detailed he is. So make sure to go give him a check. Make sure to go give him a follow, on all socials, and check out his work. All right, man, let's wrap this thing up and let's get into the actual game for tomorrow. Look, big game, do or die for the Pistons. Kind of like do or die for the Knicks too, man. I'd like to see this team wrap this thing up, get some rest, because, look, it's most likely going to be the Celtics unless Orlando decides to somehow find the secret sauce for and then go defeat the Celtics. But look, I want to see the Knicks win tomorrow, obviously. Being a Knicks fan, thinking about the next round. What do the Pistons have to do though? Like, what is that haymaker? Because at this point, their backs are against the wall. You're not sure if you're gonna have Isaiah Stewart back tomorrow, right? What do the Pistons have to do? What are they doing? What does throwing out the kitchen sink look like for them tomorrow?
So I thought about this today because I do have over on Game Theory last night. We talked about a potential lineup to throw out there where JB could throw a curveball at the Knicks that he hasn't done yet this series and see how it would look. I also wonder if JB's sitting there going, okay, game one, we give up a 21-0 fourth quarter run, spark plug by campaign, and lose. We steal game two in Madison Square Garden. And then game three and game four are just like these insanely tightly contested, close losses. And if you're JB, are you actually going, why would I change anything? My young, inexperienced team is, can I do something new with them? Or are we better off just being what we are and seeing if, it lands the way it needs to go get another win? The one thing I would try. So first and foremost, they have to show up and like bring the energy, like the physical, like none of that can take a step back, right? Like they can't have an emotional letdown because of what happened, how the game ended, any of that. They have to respond, which is what they've done all year. I want to throw a lineup at you and get your thoughts.
Okay.
What about a lineup of Cade Cunningham, Dennis Schroeder, and then Malik Beasley or Tim Hardaway Jr., whichever one, and then Asar and Tobias Harris on the front line, where now the Pistons are a little smaller. You have 4 floor spacers on the court with only Asar as a non-shooter, and as opposed to 2 non-shooters, which the Pistons usually play. Harris is guarding Cat anyway. You have Asar or Schroeder to guard Jalen Brunson. Essentially the Detroit's version of small ball that we haven't seen a whole lot of in this series. That's the one curveball, the one Hail Mary, the one whatever that I think JB could go to that maybe could be successful. I think it's the one lineup iteration that could change some things and maybe spark plug a 12-2 run over 4 minutes or something like that.
I think that lineup only works, and I personally I don't like for the Pistons. If I were, I wouldn't particularly like it, but just because now you're leaving Cat on an island with Tobias,
Yeah,
and
sure.
well, Tobias has been admirable defending Cat. Like he's not stopping Cat. Like Cat, if you're gonna say you're gonna do a 5-out spacing, now you're gonna have Cat saying, "All right, keep everybody out on the perimeter. You don't have that big now to shade over to actually give
Sure.
help,
It's a
which is
great
what the
point.
whole point is with Josh Hart out there, right? And you put Duran on him to shade over, and now you have the double to actually help Cat. I think that if I saw that, I'm like, yo, Cat, you get on the block, and we're going to slow this thing down, and you're going to eat. Now the thing, obviously, in this is that you would have to now be very protective of the basketball, right? And now, while the Knicks have turned the ball over, and we've seen that happen, not to the same extent as the Pistons, that's where you got to be very careful because now if you're playing now if you're getting to a track meet, right? Now that's the line that can get to a track meet. Now if you're in a track meet, now you got to say, all right, man, now we got to slow these guys down. And then I think the only way that works is that if you get into the mind game of the Knicks, right? And say, all right, we're going to really put pressure on you. Can you guys get back out and transition and defend well, which has been a weakness for the New York Knicks this season. And so that's the only way I could see like it. That's truly going 100% and saying that's the chaos that we have to get. You have to be forcing turnovers and you have to be getting Thompson and Schroeder out in transition and Cade as well and making sure that you're getting the easy buckets. That's the only way that lineup works. But if I'm the Knicks, I think that's too small and I'm trying to get Cat in the paint every single time.
It's a really good point because you're right. The one thing that Detroit has absolutely done, as we mentioned earlier, was Duran comes with early help anytime Cat posts up Harris. Now it would be like Asar, who's not a small guy, but he's not the same size as Jalen Duran, or it'd be Cade or somebody like that, whoever was matched up on Josh Hart in that situation. The other thing is Malik Beasley has not shot the ball well in this series, especially compared to what he did in the regular season. He's at 31% on 10 attempts. Hardaway Jr. shot it a little bit better. Detroit could have an outlier 3-point shooting game, right? That there could be a Malik Beasley 6 of 10 and Hardaway Jr. bangs 3 in a row and, Cade hits a couple and all of a sudden you have this just ridiculous 3-point shooting game from the Pistons. Um, you know, spark plug by Malik Beasley. I don't know, but I would assume he's getting close to due after what we saw all regular season. That would be the other one. And then always probably the best bet is Cade just has a ridiculous game, right? Like Cade just is the best player on the floor and outplays everybody in Madison Square Garden, has a moment, and they're able to steal it because he just does his thing.
Yeah, I'd say the other thing with that lineup that you mentioned, I think the difficulty in going with that is that now who's your rebounding? Like Cat, Hart, both guys who are averaging close to 9 boards per game. Bridges has been doing well, averaging 5. Mitchell Robinson, like, well, Mitch wouldn't be out there, but let's just say they keep OG out there. OG's been averaging 4 boards as well. So now you're also, I think, like you're losing the second chance opportunity and that paint presence, which, that's been the strength of the Pistons. And
Sure.
you got to give during that credit, Isaiah Stewart when he's healthy. Cade, obviously another guy that adds to it because his ability to get downhill and fight through contact. So I think that's probably why we haven't seen a lot of that lineup. I think it's very risky, and look, I'm all for seeing funky lineups out there. You never know what sticks until you try it. Um, but that could certainly be, I think, to your point, one of the things that JB Bickerstaff does in order to like try to get this thing back. At this point, your back is against the wall. It's a do or die situation. So why not trot different lineups out there and see what works?
I honestly think, though, I think we'll just see them do what they do. Like, to me, this whole season, the whole culture of the Detroit Pistons this year has been this is who we are, and we're going to assert our will. And even if we have a bad game, bad 2 games, bad 3 games, bad quarter, we're going to respond and trust in our process. And my guess is, Alex, we see a lot of the same thing we've seen all series long from this team. I truly, I don't think we're going to see a bunch of rotation changes. I don't think we're going to see lineup changes.
Oh man.
I think we're going to see the Pistons just say, we're going to go out and do what we do. I don't know if it's the right decision, the best decision, whatever. I truly think that that's what they believe. I think that's the mentality for them.
I have to ask you this because you say that and I just think about Tom Thibodeau and like just guys who are just, curmudgeons, guys who are, very stuck in their ways, very, very what's the word? Very stern, not stern, but very stubborn.
Stubborn.
Rigid,
Yeah.
stubborn. That's what I'm going for. It's like that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like when I hear this, like we're gonna stick to what has been working for us for most of the time. We're not gonna change anything. And I have to ask you, man, because I know like when I listen to Knicks Nation, like tapping in with the fan base, and even I could say it gets a little tiring. Where it's like, all right, man, can we like let's spicing this thing up a little bit. Right? We don't got to keep doing the same thing. When you see Bickerstaff do that, are you like, all right, man, like come on, we gotta change it up a little bit, right?
So here's what's crazy is we had people in our comments section like ready to move on from JB Bickerstaff already. And I'm like, guys,
Wow.
I was like, guys, this team won 14 games last year. We cannot move the goalposts in less than 12 months for this team.
Man,
Everybody said it when he got hired. I said it. Like, if JB gets this team to the point where his playoff limitations are an issue, he did his job, and we will send him out with a parade for getting this team out of the disastrous situation they were in and send him, whatever, his farewell check if they need to upgrade. So I'm just like, every coach has their thing, Alex. There are flaws. Some have more than others. I think JB is a great. Somebody said it in our comments section. JB is a tremendous culture guy. There's no denying that. What he did with this team's culture this year is unbelievable. But he struggles a little bit with X's and O's, maybe in-game adjustments, maybe even playoff series adjustments. But quite honestly, I can live with that after what I've watched for the last 4 seasons.
I don't know if I'm listening to you talk about the Detroit Pistons or the New York Knicks at this point, which is kind of. I feel like this is the Spider-Man meme where we're just pointing at each other. Like it just sounds very, very similar to what I on this side, man. So I guess TM, if you could create a poll, please. I need to know. We got close to 400 people now tuning in right now live. Shout out to all you. Okay,
Yeah, thank you
the
guys.
poll. Can you please create a poll? Does what Bryce say sound like Tom Thibodeau? Yes or no? Is this bizarro world or what am I living in, man? I'm just like I have no idea what just happened.
So
I don't.
are you gonna get the Michael Malone conversations
Oh,
if
that already happened, man. What are we
okay.
talking about? That already
Okay.
happened. Okay,
Like
we
as
we
soon
we
as he got fired, like when they if oh Knicks fans are gonna hate me now. If they lose to the Celtics next round,
Oh boy, here we go.
can we do this or would you rather me not?
We can do it, man. That's what the people are tuning in for, man.
Okay,
Let's do it.
okay. What's the first head to roll? Like who are Knicks fans call is like is it
How
Bridges?
bad? Okay, the question is, how bad is the loss in that series? That's the big thing.
Let's say they lose in five. They play rotations like what we saw in this series. Um, I don't want to like throw a player under the bus, but to like make it more fun, like is who's the player that people would get the most? Like Brunson's kind of untouchable, right? From the no,
I think no. Oh no. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Brunson's
yeah,
untouchable.
from the
Yeah.
fan base in terms of like the fan
I
bases.
think you already know the answer, and you're not saying it though. I think you already know the answer.
It's Mikal, right?
Exactly. There you go.
It's Mikal or Thibodeau are going to get all of the heat, correct?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Or
One
Josh.
A, one B in some situation. Don't worry.
I feel like my guy Josh gets too much heat, man. I love the heat. He makes big plays all the time. I like Josh.
Josh is awesome, man. I
Okay.
don't like. Look, Josh is like. Look, I know he's dealing with jumper's knee right now, but it's not the same as we saw during the first, like, I guess 3 quarters of the season. It kind of tailed off, but like he's dealing with an injury. Look, man, he's still playing his ass off in these series, man. He is getting mauled out there. Okay, it is physical out there. I don't know why we get Josh Hart. That man literally has changed. He's part of the culture change when he got traded to this team. Josh Hart deserves very little hate, and look, Bridges gets a lot of heat, man. Even I could say I have, there are times I've accepted for who he is. I said that on the show. I used to be extremely aggravated, but at this point, it's like he's not the guy that said I'm worth 5 draft picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm like,
That's
you
a
gotta
good
look at the
point.
front office for that.
That is great perspective because I even find myself evaluating him at that level. And I guess maybe it is fair, not necessarily him as a player, but organizationally or whatever. But that is he didn't trade himself for 5 first round picks. So that's a little bit unfair on I think my biggest thing is I always thought of him as one of the best or at least better perimeter defenders in the league. And then he went to Brooklyn. Obviously, his role changed. And I thought whenever he came to New York, I was just like, this is going to be like awesome. Like he's going to be their defensive stopper. And he just hasn't been capable of that. You know what I mean? Like it's more of like, it's made me question my evaluation of like, man, was I wrong about how good he was defensively in Phoenix? Because I don't see that level of defender this season, at least in New York. So, but
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at what the poll is. And
oh yeah, what is it?
TM, I love TM's creativity on this. Is Bryce talking about Tibbs or Bickerstaff? So I'm just curious to see where this is going. It's kind of all right. It's already 83%. It's already 80% for Thomas Thibodeau. So there you go.
I
Should
love
tell
it.
you a lot, man. Should tell you a lot about what you just said for the New York Knicks. But hey, to answer your question, I think it all depends. I don't want to look too far ahead. I don't like being in that negative mindset right now. I'm trying to enjoy this postseason run. But look, I think it all depends on how it all ends. If it's not a competitive series against the Celtics, let's say it's a complete sweep, right? And you're just looking at games that are like 15, 20 point blowouts. Like I feel like there's just no way you could say, hey, he can still be the voice for next year because you just need to see some sort of competitive nature. But we don't know, man. We don't know. I think, look, they did give him an extension. They do like him. You had James Dolan on the roommate show talking about how this team is meant to be together for, 4 seasons, 3 to 4 seasons, this nucleus. And so maybe they give him another chance next year to see what happens. But anything could happen, man. We've seen crazier things. I mean, we saw Malone get fired 2 weeks before the postseason started. We've seen
Yeah.
The Grizzlies head coach,
Taylor
right?
Jenkins,
Taylor
yeah.
Jenkins just get fired like out of nowhere. It's like, dude, it's like he's got a lot of high-end role players and a guy who can't shoot the basketball that well.
I
What's
mean,
going on?
it was a couple months of insaneness in the NBA whenever the Luka trade happens, and then Malone and Calvin Booth get fired, and then I guess the Jenkins thing happened first, and then Calvin Booth and
Yeah.
Michael Malone. Yeah, it's crazy. I will say this, just as an NBA fan and somebody that covers the entire NBA at Game Theory and all of that. I'm excited for the rest of these playoffs as well. And again, like I'll give Detroit, a puncher's chance here. The ultimate Pistons thing to do would be to go win game 5 and then go back to LCA and lose a heartbreaker again. I hope they don't do that to the fan base, but I'm juiced about the Cavs Pacers series, what I assume will be Cavs Pacers series. I think a Knicks-Celtics series will be awesome. Over in the West, whoever the Thunder get, whether it's the Clippers or the Nuggets, will be awesome. And then the other side of the bracket as well. I know that Warriors Rockets game is going on right now. Looks like they're going to take on the Timberwolves. So I think we've got a great playoff so far. This weekend was incredible. Like somehow the Pistons didn't even have the craziest Pistons Knicks didn't even have the craziest ending to a game because Aaron Gordon did a first in NBA.
Dude.
So it's like you talk about like reviews. You had to get like the exact right view just to make sure. So NBA fans are in a good place, I feel like, with great NBA playoffs. Most of the series, obviously, a couple of them have been a little rough, but
For sure. But Bryce, before I let you get out of here, last question, man. If the season ends tomorrow and the series ends tomorrow, let's say the Knicks win, what is the one takeaway that you're taking away from the series for your team, for both teams actually?
Okay, for the Knicks, it's the Karl Anthony Towns thing. It's the Karl Anthony Towns. And I think what this series showed more than anything to the Detroit Pistons is that Cade Cunningham is a 1A basketball player, and they don't have anything close to a 1B or number 2 on the roster right now. That doesn't mean somebody on the roster can't develop into that. That doesn't mean it may not be Jaden Ivey, who's injured right now, but they didn't have anything close to that in this series. And I thought this series showed how important that is, because Brunson has been amazing, and Karl Anthony Towns being what he is shows how valuable that person is. Along with, I think the other takeaway from the Knicks, the Pistons can learn from, two-way wings. OG Anunoby being a two-way wing. You know, Mikal Bridges can take a lot of hate, but like at the end of the day, he isn't an awful defender, and he does make shots. Like there's still a two-way capability to his game, and we see the value in that. So those are my big takeaways from finally seeing this team in a playoff series.
Yeah, and I think for me, my biggest takeaway from this Pistons team is that, one, I agree with you about Cade, but it's also, I think the defensive identity is certainly there to build off of, and I think it's very important on how they continue to create that, because I feel like a lot of teams just, they kind of like they just shy away from it. They don't really go fully in, and sometimes they go too offensive heavy, right? And I think that we've seen that you still need that team that's more than capable of rising to that challenge and creating critical stops. And from that, I do see the Pistons doing that. It just comes down to the other side of the basketball that you mentioned, that you don't have that second guy. You just, like, offensively, when Cade gets an open look and it's like, all right, maybe it's not Cade tonight, in this moment, in this frame, who is it? Who is going to take that tough shot? It can't certainly be Timmy for even how well he's played this series. Beasley, after, he was torching the Nets in game one, then it's just, fizzled out. And so he used the entire clip in one night. But that's certainly the biggest takeaway. And for the Knicks, man, it's, for me, like, outside of Karl Anthony Towns and what Brunson are doing, is that this team can rise to the challenge and play a level of physicality with that starting five. Because I think that was the biggest gripe with a lot of fans, is that last year defensively, they're always, it was like they showed up with metal bats. They showed up with, brass knuckles. They were ready to go throw down with whoever, and it didn't really matter. And this team, obviously, I said earlier, more finesse. Some were calling them soft. I don't like calling a team soft, because it is physically challenging. You go out there, you watch how these guys are playing. They're not soft at all. I think they're just, it's whether or not can they stay locked in and be like, hone their attention to the detail in order to thrive and succeed. And they've certainly shown that it doesn't matter. They're able to, compete in those type of physical settings, and I could take that away, man. But Bryce, appreciate you for coming through. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. If you got any work up and coming, we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Check out the Motor City Hoops Substack. Instant game analysis, notes, all of that. Do some video breakdowns. And then the Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecini. That's, general NBA as the Knicks move on. Presumably here, we'll be talking a lot about that series over there after the night, the night of the game afterwards, the next day, whatever. So I know there's tons of Knicks content out there that is really, really good, obviously right here as well. But if you need a little extra anytime, go visit Game Theory. I'm sure we'll be talking about them as well.
Shout out to Bryce for coming through as well. And make sure to go give him a follow, man, on all socials. Make sure to go check out his work. He does a fantastic job over at Motor City Hoops. So make sure to go give them that follow. And salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning for another Game of the Week preview. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And hey, for all new users, if you sign up today, look, it's Game 5's tomorrow. If you sign up today and make a deposit, you have the chance to win two free tickets to Game 5 at Madison Square Garden to watch the Knicks face off against the Detroit Pistons. All right. And I got to give a shout out to my guy, John Shin, for the last Game of the Week preview. I didn't shout you out, man. You gave us a $50 super chat. Shout out to you, John, for doing so. He said, salute. Support our boy Trat and his guest, which at the time was Hunter. And he said, Knicks greater than New York pizza. New York pizza greater than Detroit pizza. Detroit pizza greater than the Pistons. That's just John, throwing some shade over there. But it is what it is. Appreciate this $50 super chat, John, once again. And salute to all the franchise channel members in here. Once again, Zach in LA, shout out to you. We got Fabian in here. We got Frank in here. Shout out to Timothy Danzler. Shout out to you. All right, we got the Chief Mod in Operation, TM, with us as always. Wise Guy. We got Chris Barber. Shout out to Barbara Carroll for always coming through and checking out the shows. Who else we got in here? I know I saw John Talento in here. John Talento never misses a show. Shout out to you as well, my guy. Who else we got in here? Will Latimer, shout out to you, my man. Shout out for you for checking us out. Let's see who else we got in here. We got Flow174. We got Legacy in here. Shout out to you as well. We got everybody coming through on another Game of the Week preview. Appreciate all of you for tapping in. And look, if you can't catch these shows live, you can always be part of the replay gang. Just go to youtube.com/KnicksFanTV to go catch the show. And look, if you're on the road and you can't catch the YouTube show, you can always find us on any audio listening platform: Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We're all over the place, man. You can go check us out over there. Make sure to go subscribe to our newsletter to get articles, keep up with the merch, keep up with the watch party announcements, keep up with all announcements in general. So make sure to go check that out as well. Appreciate Knicks Nation once again for tapping in. Make sure to give Bryce a follow. All right, everyone. We'll catch you tomorrow for Game 5. Will the Knicks close it out tomorrow, or will the Pistons extend this thing, man? They got to be throwing haymakers in this one. You'll know where to catch us for play-by-play and post-game afterwards. All right, everyone. We out.